Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and I'm here today to talk about my favorite game mechanism in Ra. Ra is an auction game that I discovered a few years ago on my iPad, and it's one of my favorite board game ports on an iPad. Recently, a new edition came out in cardboard form, and a friend of mine got it, and we played it a few times, and it's wonderful to play it with real people too instead of just the iPad. iPad is faster, but it's very interesting to see how real human interactions work with an auction game where you really need those human interactions. I wanted to limit this to one mechanism, but I really like Raw. I really like Raw. It might be my favorite auction game, and so I'm going to say two things. One is related to my favorite thing to do in Raw, which is in Raw, basically on your turn, you're either deciding to start an auction or start bidding, or you are putting a tile on the board, and the tile will either be a tile that adds to all the items in the auction, and you're bidding for all of the items, so you're potentially making the auction more valuable, or a tile might come out that triggers the auction. I think it's called a raw tile. And what I love about Ra is that the bounty, the thing that you're bidding on, can grow quite large, or it can be quite small. But I love letting it grow. I like watching it stretch as far as possible until someone starts that auction. It's my favorite thing to do. Like on my turn, I hardly ever start the auction. I'm not very good at Ra because it's very important to actually start that auction at times. But I love that players are in control of how big the bounty is. The game isn't telling you to do that. It's completely up to the players how big it gets. With some limitation. There is like an end. You can't get beyond maybe 8 or 10 tiles as part of that. But for the most part, there's very little limitation there. My second mechanism that I want to talk about, which is probably the most clever and innovative thing about Ra, is that you're not bidding with money or any other resource. You are bidding with one of three tiles that have a number on it. I think it's it's 2 through 13. 1 through 13, really. The 1 starts on the board. And you only bid once. So every time there's an auction, you can either pass or you can take one of your 3 bidding tiles and show it and say, this is mine, this is the number I'm bidding with. And after everyone gets a turn to bid once, a chance to bid once, the highest bidder wins. And you'd think in an auction game that the money element of it seems important, like bidding with money. It just seems intuitive part of an auction game. But the Raw system is just brilliant because it gives each player it limits them to three chances, not 3 chances. It gives a player the chance to win 3 auctions per round at most. So there's a limitation there to the number of auctions they can actually win. 2, it presents such an interesting choice as to which of your tiles you're going to bid with, because there's a limitation there. You might have tile 2 and 6 and 13, and you can see what available tiles all other players have. So you're kind of deciding how much do I want this pot and how much do I want to push other people up. You might not really even want it, but you might bid that 6 in the hopes of another player playing their 7 or their 8 or their 9 instead of their 3 or their 4. And the final twist to this is that when you bid with that tile and you win the auction, you take the tile that won the previous auction. And so that's another part of the bounty that you're getting. So you might get a bunch of general tiles that you're trying to win in general, but you're also getting that bidding tile. And so if I bid with my 6 in the example I gave before, and the tile in the middle of the table is a 3, then I'm downsizing for the next round of the auction. It's 3 rounds. Whereas if that tile in the middle is, say, an 11, then I'm increasing my abilities for the next round of the auction by upgrading from that 6 to the 11. So it creates another value to consider as you're thinking about what to bid on. And at the end of the game, when there is no other round to use those tiles to bid with, you do get points if you have the most, if the combined total of all of your final tiles is higher than any other player. It's a brilliant system. I mean, it simplifies it down to this core, it's just 3 tiles, and yet the decisions involved with those tiles are so interesting and so varied. It's great. It's a really, really clever mechanism. And I don't think I've seen it in any other auction game. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you have a favorite element of Ra, or you have another auction game that uses a very clever bidding mechanism, maybe similar to Ra, maybe not, I'd love to hear about it. I will be at Gen Con, so I won't be able to reply to any of the comments, but I'll enjoy them when I get back. Thanks.